Reading The Unknown Reality by Jane Roberts, a Seth book, Volume 2. Section 5. Session 716. Seth states, this section will deal with various methods that will allow you to come in contact with the unknown reality to one extent or another. We have spoken of probable man, hinted at probable civilizations, and mentioned alternate systems of actuality. Yet these do not exist completely apart from the world that you know, or entirely cut off from the psyche. If you have no experience with such realities, then their existence remains delightful or speculative conjecture. The unknown reality is a variation of the one that you know, so that many of its features are latent rather than predominant in your own private and mass experience. Any encounter with such phenomena will then include a bringing into focus of elements that are usually not concentrated upon. Your consciousness must learn to organize itself in more than one fashion, or rather, you must be willing to allow your consciousness to use itself more fully. It is not necessarily a matter of trying to ignore the contents of the world or to deny your physical perception. Instead, the trick is to view the contents of the world in different fashions, to free your physical senses from the restraints that your mental conventions have placed upon them. Each particular quote-unquote station, each particular station of consciousness perceives in a different kind of reality. And as mentioned earlier in session 711, you usually tune in to your home station most of the time. If you turn your focus only slightly away, the world appears differently. And if that slightly altered focus were the predominant one, then that is how the world would seem to be. Each aspect of the psyche perceives the reality upon which it is focused. And that reality is also the materialization of a particular state of the psyche projected outward. You can learn to encounter other realities by altering your position within your own psyche. In order to begin, you must first become familiar with the working of your own consciousness as it is directed toward the physical world. You cannot know when you are in focus with another reality if you do not even realize what it feels like to be in full focus with your own. Many people phase in and out of that state without being aware of it, and others are able to keep track of their own, quote, inner drifting, end quote. Here, simple daydreaming represents a slight shift of awareness out of directly given sense data. If you listen to an FM radio station, there is a handy locking gadget that automatically keeps the station in clear focus. It stops the program from quote-unquote drifting. In the same way, when you daydream, you drift away from your home station, while still relating to it, generally speaking. You also have the mental equivalent, however, of the FM's lock-in mechanism. On your part, this is the result of training, so that if your thoughts or experience stray too far, this mental gadget brings them back into line. Usually this is automatic, a learned response that by now appears to be almost instinctive. You must learn to use these mechanisms consciously for your own purposes, for it is extremely handy. Many of you do not pay attention to your own experience, subjectively speaking, so you drift in and out of clear focus in this reality, barely realizing it. Often your daily program is not nearly as clear or well-focused as it should be, but full of static. And while this may annoy you, you often put up with it or even become so used to the lack of harmony that you forget what a clear reception is like. However, in this world, you are surrounded by familiar objects, details, and ideas, and your main orientation is physical so that you can operate through habit alone, even when you are not as well focused within your reality as you should be. When you go traveling off into other systems, however, you cannot depend upon your habits. Indeed, often they can only add to your mental clutter, turning into quote-unquote static. So you must learn, first of all, what a clear focus is. You will not learn it by trying to escape your own reality or by attempting to dull your senses. This can only teach you what it means not to focus, and in whatever reality you visit, the ability to focus clearly and well is a prerequisite. Once you learn how to really tune in, then you will understand what it means to change the direction of your focus. One of the simplest exercises is hardly an original one, but it is of great benefit. Practice element 11. Seth states, try to experience all of your present sense data as fully as you can. This tones your entire physical and psychic organism, bringing all of your perceptions together so that your awareness opens fully. Body and mind operate together. You experience an immediate sense of power because your abilities are directed to the fullest of their capacities. In a physical moment, you can act directly on the spot, so to speak. Hopefully you guys are going to do this exercise as I'm reading. So sit with your eyes open easily. Let your vision take in whatever is before you. Do not strain. On the other hand, do explore the entire field of vision simultaneously. Listen to everything. Identify all the sounds if you can, mentally placing them with the objects to which they correspond, even though the objects may be invisible. Sit comfortably, but make no great attempt to relax. Instead, feel your body in an alert manner, not in a sleepy, distant fashion. Be aware of its pressure against the chair, for example, and of its temperature, of variations. Your hands may be warm and your feet cold, or your belly hot and your head cold. Consciously then, feel your body's sensations. Is there any taste in your mouth? What odors do you perceive? Take as much time as you want with this exercise. It places you in your universe clearly. This is an excellent exercise to use before you begin and after you finish with any experiment involving an alteration of consciousness. Now, bring all of those sensations together. Try to be aware of all of them at once, so that one adds to the others. If you find yourself being more concerned with one particular perception, then make an attempt to bring the ignored ones to the same clear focus. Let all of them together form a brilliant awareness of the moment. When you are using this exercise, follow any experiment with an alteration of consciousness. Then end it here and go about your other concerns. You may also utilize it as an initial step that will help you get the feeling of your own inner mobility. To do this, proceed as given, and when you have the moment's perception as clearly as possible, then willfully let it go. All right, So now you're going to let the unity disappear as far as your conscious thought is concerned. No longer connect up the sounds you hear with the corresponding objects. Make no attempt to unify vision and hearing. Drop the package, as it were, as a unified group of perceptions. The previous clarity of the moment will have changed into something else. Take one sound if you want to, say of a passing car, and with your eyes closed now, follow the sound in your mind. Keep your eyes closed. Become aware of whatever perceptions reach you, but this time do not judge or evaluate. Then, in a flash, open your eyes, alert your body, and try to bring all of your perceptions together again as brilliantly and clearly as possible. When you have the sense world before you this time, let it climax, so to speak. Then again, close your eyes and let it fall away. Do not focus, in fact, unfocus. When you have done this often enough so that you are intimately aware of the contrast, you will have a subjective feeling, a point of knowing within yourself that will clearly indicate to you how your consciousness feels when it is at its finest point of focus in physical reality. As you go about your day, try now and then to recapture that point and to bring all data into the clearest possible brilliance. You will find that this practice continued will vastly enrich your normal experience. You find it much easier to concentrate, to attend. To attend is to pay attention and take care of. So this exercise will allow you to attend, to focus your awareness to the matters at hand as clearly and vividly as possible. The subjective knowledge of your own point of finest focus will also serve as a reference point for many other exercises. Practice element 12, Seth states, you must work from your own subjective experience. So when you find your own finest focus point, this is your clearest reception for your own home station. You may feel that it has a certain position in your inner vision, or in your head, or you may find that you have your own symbol to represent it. You might imagine it, if you want to, as a station indicator on your own radio or television set, but your subjective recognition of it is your own cue. In our just previous exercise, when I spoke of having you let your clear perception drop away and told you to disconnect vision from hearing, you were drifting in terms of your own home station. Your consciousness was straying. This time, begin with the point of your own finest focus, which you have established. Then let your consciousness stray as given. Only let it stray in a particular direction, to the right or the left, whichever seems most natural to you. In this way, you are still directing it and learning to orient yourself. In the beginning, 15 minutes at most for this exercise, but let your awareness drift in whatever direction you have chosen. Each person will have his or her own private experience here, but gradually certain kinds of physical data will seem to disappear, while others may take prominence. For example, you might mentally hear sounds, while knowing they have no physical origin. You may see nothing in your mind, or you may see images that seem to have no exterior correlation, but you may hear nothing. For a while, ordinary physical data may continue to intrude. When it does, recognize it as your home station, and mentally let yourself drift further away from it. What is important is your own sensation as you experience the mobility of your consciousness. If you ever grow concerned, simply return to your home station, back to the left or right according to the direction you have chosen. I do not suggest that you use quote-unquote higher or quote-unquote lower as directions, because of the interpretations that you may have placed upon them through your beliefs. Do not be impatient. As you continue with this exercise over a period of time, you will be able to go further away, orienting yourself as you grow more familiar with the feeling of your mind. Gradually, you will discover that this inner sense data will become clearer and clearer as you move toward another quote-unquote station. It will represent reality as perceived from a different state of consciousness. The first journey from one home station to another, unfamiliar, one may bring you in contact with various kinds of bleed-throughs, distortions, or static. These can be expected. They are simply the result of not yet learning how to tune your own consciousness clearly into other kinds of focus. Before you can pick up the quote-unquote next station, for example, you may see ghost images in your mind, or pick up distorted versions from your own home station. You have momentarily dispensed with the usual habitual organizational process by which you unite regular physical sense perceptions. So while you are, quote, between stations, end quote, while you are between stations, you may well encounter mixed signals from each. When you alter your conscious focus in such a fashion, you are also moving away from the part of your psyche that you consider its center. You are journeying through your own psyche, in other words, for different realities are different states of the psyche, materialized, projected outward, and experienced. This applies to your home station or physical world as well. Even your home station has many programs, and you have usually tuned in to one main one and ignored others. Characters in your, quote, favorite program, end quote. Characters in your favorite program at home may appear in far different guises when you are between stations, and elements of other programs that you have ignored at home may suddenly become apparent to you. I will give you a simple example. At home, you may tune into religious programs. That means that you might organize your daily existence about highly idealistic principles. You may try to ignore what you consider other programs dealing with hatred, fear, or violence. You might do such a good job of organizing your physical data about your ideal that you shut out any emotions that involve fear, violence, or hatred. When you alter your consciousness again, you automatically begin to let old organizations of data drop away. You may have tuned out what you think of as negative feelings or programming. These, however, may have been present but ignored. And when you dispense with your usual method of organizing physical data, they may suddenly become apparent. If you tell yourself that sexual feeling is wrong and organize your daily programming in that fashion, then when you quote-unquote mediate or dispense with that orientation, you may suddenly find yourself presented with material that you consider unsavory. You cannot deny the reality of the psyche or those natural feelings that you experience in the flesh. When you begin to alter your perception then, and your habitual picture of reality drops away, you may well find yourself encountering in distorted fashion elements of your own reality that you have up to then studiously denied or ignored. This is most apparent with those who use the Ouija board or automatic writing as methods to alter consciousness. In your home station, events are encountered clearly in space and time. When you move away, however, you may meet events in time but not in space. And reality that you have tried to deny may then appear vividly. If you understand this, you can gain immeasurably, for you move your focus away from your organized reality. Other portions of it upon which you have not concentrated will come into view. This can show you what was missing from your home station if you know how to read the clues. You form your home station according to your beliefs. If you firmly believe, again, that sex is wrong, then your home station may involve you in a life, quote-unquote, programming, in which you constantly try to deny the validity of the flesh. The sight of a nude might upset you. You might undress in the dark or think, if you are married, of the sexual act of intercourse as dirty. If you are a man, you might be ashamed of what you consider to be your need. I have an example in point. A young man I will call Joe wrote Rupert a letter. He left his home in San Francisco to travel to India to study with a guru. He has been told that sexual desire mitigates against spiritual illumination. His home program involves him with no sex whatsoever. Joe tries desperately to abstain. At the same time, when he mediates and alters his consciousness, he immediately finds himself with a blinding headache, images of nude women, and fantasies of female goddesses out to tempt him from his celibate state. So Joe thinks of such images as very wrong. Instead, they are telling him something, that his home program is impoverished, for he has been denying the reality of his being. If he ignores the advice of his psyche, then his journeys into the unknown reality will be highly distorted. Seductive goddesses will follow him wherever he goes. Alright, so that's the end of this session, and I just want to tell you guys something before I read the one note, I think it is, post-session notes, that on 7/8/2016 I did this exercise the first time. I think it was the first time, but anyways, I did this exercise, and what I personally saw, no fear. First of all, I had no fear, but I saw a dark hooded skeleton figure body with no skin, no eyes. I saw him for what he used to be to me, as fear of some kind. But then I looked at him differently, as a bare bones body, because that is basically what we look like under the skin and muscles. I then saw it begin to dissolve from head down into dust. Then dust blew away. This was like a major accomplishment for me. And that's what I wrote down at the end of this session on this page over here. And just wanted to share. Okay, so anyway, I hope everybody will do these exercises. And for those who are interested in a continuation of Rob's first and second Romans, this is note 1. This is in note 1 right here. And it continues on to the next page. So if you want to read that, definitely pause. And note number 2, Rob states that Seth discussed probable man and probable civilizations and mentioned alternate systems of actuality in various portions of Volume 1. He says to go to the 687th session, which bridges sections 1 and 2, and also Appendix 6 for that session. You guys can read the rest of these notes if you would like to. That's the end of this session. Thank you for watching. And real quick, if you guys do this, hopefully you do this, these practice elements, definitely write it down. Oh my gosh, because I wouldn't have remembered that. I would not have remembered that experience with the skeleton and the dust and him just blown away. I'm always glad when I write down my experiences.